Recently I caught up with one of our Accelerator alumni, HAUMS, at the Amsterdam dance event.
What if life isn't a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced?
We have a great chat on how his personal music production journey started, from never having produced anything to now releasing on labels such as All Day I Dream, Colorize, and even starting his own record label, Quantum Feels. He now DJs around the world, and you can hear an example of his beautiful music playing in the background. We also go into how having a day job actually makes his music production experience more enjoyable and more productive. We go into the importance and the joy of experimentation, and we go a lot into the importance of mindset as to how HAUMS keeps his so positive. I'm also going to link to his music and his projects below this video, so without further ado, let's meet HAUMS. HAUMS, welcome to EDM Tips.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure,
this is
man.
great.
It's nice to actually finally meet in person, because we were working in the Accelerator a couple of years ago, so
yeah,
nice to actually meet in the flesh.
Yeah, good to meet you too. I've been watching your content, and it's always nice as like a little refresher of somebody that's just, you can tell that you really enjoy what you do.
I do.
By the way that you put it out, so
thanks, man.
Keep doing it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Guilty as charged. Yeah, so you've had a couple of things happen recently as well. I saw your post that you had your album pressed to vinyl.
Yeah.
Which you were pretty happy about.
It's so cool. There's something about, we were talking about this earlier, but there's something about having something tangible in a world of creating so many digital pieces of art. Like actually holding this vinyl, I had no idea how much joy it was gonna bring me. But yeah, I got it pressed to vinyl. Even just the design of it, was able to work with a friend to create the cover of it, which was really this image of, I feel like when I was being honest about what the album was, it was like me trying to recreate myself in the whole dance world. And so this idea of like me almost inside of a clay pot making me, which was kind of a head trip to see myself in that way. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty cool.
Excellent, because you actually came into music production after having a successful career not in music at all. Mm-hmm. So that really interested me when you told me that. So why don't you kind of say how you got into the music production side of things?
Yeah, so gosh, this is 2019, and I was DJing like out, but never really got into production. I think there was a lot of, I think that was a mindset thing, because I didn't play an instrument growing up. I didn't have a music background, no music theory. And here I am in like 2019 at a Tony Robbins event, and I'm just hopped up on like, I don't know if you know Tony Robbins.
Oh yeah.
Personal motivation.
For sure.
Like, I am just like, so I spent a week, it was in Australia. Actually had a live intervention with him during the event, which was kind of wild. So I'm like telling my whole story, and then a room full of like 2,000 people are just like coming up to me as if they know me, you know, deep and intimately, which was kind of interesting. But at that event is when I was like, part of the whole structure of the event is to decide like what goals and things you want to go out and achieve. And then you create a value system that aligns, that kind of pushes you to actually accomplish these goals. And so I'm at this event, decide I want to start producing music. And the next day, end up skydiving with a couple friends. And I don't know if you know Rob Gronkowski. He was like the tight end for the Patriots. Anyways, this NFL player. And so I'm sitting here chatting with him, and I'm like, yeah, I want to get into dance music. And you know, I've been writing these ideas for the song. And he goes, well, I've known Kaskade for 16 years. You should go fly to LA and produce this idea in his studio. And I'm like, what in the world? And then I actually jumped out of an airplane, which there's a picture of it, which I can give you, which is kind of hilarious of like, I don't think I could have been any happier at this moment. So now I'm like leaving Australia, I'm flying to LA, and I'm waiting to meet with one of Ryan or Kaskade's producers, this guy, Frankie Shakes. And so time change difference, I'd already been away from my business for a period of time. And I'm like, that's, I think, where all the fear sets in. Like, I'm just going to show up to this guy's studio and, and tell about my ideas and, and see if they want to do something. So anyways, long story short, end up connecting with this guy, Frankie Shakes, and we hit it off, got in the studio. And I mean, at this time, I know nothing about music production. So this track pretty much had to be purely ghost produced by this guy, other than like my ideas and, what I'm bringing into it. And so we go in the studio, make this idea for a song. It gets picked up by this label in the UK, In It Together Records, and goes out top 100 for like 2 or 3 days in like the hype charts. And so I'm like, this is it, man.
Nice.
Like, this is what I've got to do. So, and then after that, like actually learning the process and the hard work of learning how to produce and going through that and taking like countless courses and just became obsessed with it. I think in the process of that, it's taught me a lot about myself, and it's forced me to evolve as a human. And I think we were talking about this earlier, even just connecting to the intuition and being able to, follow more less head space, which was really good for business, and connect more to my heart and what I feel guided to, and those little intuitive pings that are like, hey, this is the direction, you know, with this track or this way of making it, so I can make it more personalized.
Yeah.
So.
And again, something we spoke about earlier, but you mentioned the fact that you had your successful business before doing that anyway, kind of removed the necessity to make it all about earning money from the music.
Yeah.
So you said it kind of allowed you to be completely open with it.
I think it even balances me in a lot of ways, because if I'm just making music, I feel weird. Like there's something about, like, I think I'm so naturally in my head most of my life. Yeah, I've run a finance business and worked with clients, you know, a lot of people that are either like selling catalogs or selling business that come to me and they're like, I got to figure out how to make a revenue stream out of this, and then kind of doing that for myself. And so having that background then allowed me to be able to get into music and art from more of a, what is it that resonates with me versus having to, you know, create tracks for somebody else, or, you know, or just take a gig, you know, to go play a bar mitzvah or something, you know, that would pay well.
Yeah.
And I think with that, it's allowed me to kind of fine tune more and more of like what it is, what the brand is, like what is it that I feel deeply connected to and what I want to resonate. And so that's been at the heart of like at HAUMS, and then Quantum Fields, which is the record label that I started a couple years ago. That's been the focus of those for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, it's taking the pressure off for sure.
And your music's really deep and beautiful. Like the production is really, really clean and really nice.
Thanks.
So would you describe it as organic house, or how would you describe it?
Yes, I started up making organic house. I don't know why. I mean, I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and there was just something about kind of going on this spiritual journey, and that's what resonated, just that tribal elements. There was something to that was like I deeply connected to. So started out on Organic House. That was my first album. I think even when we started working together, I was sending you some tracks, and you were super gracious with like connecting me with some people. And then it's evolved a little bit more into progressive, a little bit more melodic techno, a little more melodic house. At the core of it, I feel like there's something about ambience, and there's a way that kind of puts things into more of a trance-like state, and playing with some of these frequencies. A lot of where the inspiration artistically comes from is I spend a lot of time meditating and connecting to these other realms, and even the record label Quantum Fields is based on this concept of the quantum field, this like scientific realm of manifestation. And so like being able to go into these alternate realms and then take that experience and try to put that into a frequency. I feel like with music, it can do so much more than words can to try to describe places. Yeah, and just try to help. And it's really even helped me even on my own spiritual journey or personal growth journey, is like help me to make sense out of those experiences and just connect to myself in a deeper way.
Nice.
So,
and again, we mentioned just before we started recording that now we're both in Amsterdam for the Amsterdam Dance event.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of led you to come to this place and start connecting with people you've been collaborating with remotely.
Yeah, like being able to meet you in person, you know, versus just over like Zoom call or something. So I'm in Nashville, phenomenal songwriters, vocalists, instrumentalists, but I tend to work with most people in Europe and on the collaboration side, which I love. Well, you say you love a collaboration when it goes well. It's not going well, you know, it is what it is. You just chalk it up. But I've found that if it's just me creating a song and putting it out, it tends to limit the possibility or the potential of it. Mm-hmm. And so finding people that I resonate with, humans I resonate with that are making art in a certain way, and then the combination of what we can create together, and then even just the push that has, I've really, really liked. So yeah, part of coming here has been to be able to connect with a few artists, producers that I really, really love, and to just kind of, I think, just rediscover, you know, why it is that I make dance music, and, you know, the intent and everything, and kind of fall in love with it again. There's something about being around a bunch of people that love it that helps kind of push that. And you know, being in a place of Nashville, it's got a really, really good, strong underground scene, but it's small.
Yeah.
And it's different. So,
I mean, I've found as well that most people don't have many friends that are into making dance music. It's a pretty niche thing to do.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, even me, well, now I have more producers who are friends, but most people in their immediate circle, they don't have many people that are that passionate about dance music as them.
Yeah.
So things like this, and, you know, online communities as well, but in person is always better. You're surrounded by a bunch of people who are basically as mad about this as you are. And it's a really energizing experience. I find it anyway.
Yeah. Do you have this with where you're at?
Oh yeah,
Like
I mean,
in person, do you have a lot of people you spend time with?
not really, no. I'm like working at the computer most of the time, and most producers are doing that. There's nothing like getting into a studio with someone to really have a good time though. I love that. You know, even if it's a singer, so they're not necessarily a producer, but when you're vibing with someone and coming up with ideas and you're in there for hours, it's just, I don't know, time just seems to go like that. For me, that's fun.
No, I feel you. Versus just sending stems back and forth or project files.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which can be a little more efficient sometimes, but
Definitely.
not always. Yeah, that's fair.
So it's a good place to be, and that's cool. But what else have you got going on with your record label? Because you've actually mentioned a retreat as well, like a production retreat.
So I've started doing in Nashville, I've got all this incredible analog gear thanks to a buddy of mine, this guy Ransom.
I'll flash up a photo if that's okay, because it was incredible.
Yeah. So a friend of mine had this incredible studio, moves back to LA, and so he set it up in my house, and then combined with like some of the gear that I have, and so I've got like 7 or 8 synths from, you know, Moog 1 to Prophet 10s to Junos, you know, and some just weird synthesizer stuff, and then we're recording a lot of vinyl into projects, which has actually been really interesting, like some old school tribal stuff, and then using that as like drum layers. And we did this twice, for another artist and then for my own project. I'm looking to do this probably once a quarter. So maybe we do something with the alumni of EDM Tips and the Accelerator group. That could be interesting.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, in Nashville, just get a bunch of songwriters, vocalists come through, probably have, you know, several producers, and there's like 4 rooms set up inside of it, and just go to town, make some music, usually have like a yoga instructor, somebody to create some movement so we're not just sitting there, because it's easy to just get locked in that. But, so that's part of the record label now, I think, is being able to make music like what you're talking about in person with people that resonates on a certain frequency from a place of being. I think I'd find really interesting, you know, because at the core of Quantum Feels is this idea of creating music that kind of tunes you to, you know, whatever higher self that you want to connect to, making music that's in that frequency, so that when you're at a live show or even like at a HAUM show, the intent is that, like, if I'm able to create sound or experiences that, especially with movement, I think is really, really powerful. I mean, it's one thing to meditate, but to like meditate while moving, I think can be incredibly profound for, really even just tapping into like a more attuned self. And so, you know, I think if you're able to celebrate and experience something, it's easier to embody it. And then as a body, you can walk into your future instead of having to think your way in your future. Or at least that's so at the heart of it, that's kind of the intent of the show, the music, the label itself, to be creating art that's done in this way. So that like you could go to a show and celebrate whatever you want in life, and you become that more and more through it, versus just, you know, making some beats and that. So that's at the heart of it. And it'd probably be a lifetime achievement if I could ever figure out how to do it properly. But
I'm sure you've already done it though at your shows. You know,
I appreciate that.
Every time you do it, you're just you're getting better at doing it each time.
Yeah,
it's not like I'm not doing it. Oh, I've done it. Do you know what I mean? It's like a growing, evolving thing. Yeah,
it feels that way. The more I play shows away from like Nashville's been great. I've loved it there. But even playing shows outside of there, the patience and the appreciation for music is profound. It's like I'm deeply interested in kind of doing more sets and shows and experiences. We got a residency for the label in Tulum right now. That's been so fun. There's something about being in that environment. Obviously, being on the beach makes a world difference too, but being in that space with people that are just like actually interested in new music and the organic feel of it, and like getting and able to drop into those deeper frequencies, and versus sometimes the US culture just wants more moments, and they kind of want to just be hit in the face with moments all the time. And so, which I can do and play festivals, but I really love having about at least 2 hours, 3 hours to like go through a whole philosophical journey and sonic journey, and explore the depths, and the higher frequencies too. So yeah, it's at the heart of the project.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, that's the kind of music that got me into dance music, really.
Oh, amazing.
In the early 90s with Sasha and Digweed going on these epic journeys. And it was so different from listening to like a single pop song or a single pop song. It's like, people like Carl Cox that will do an 8 or 10 hour set.
Incredible.
And he still does that now,
I know.
He's been doing it for decades.
To do 8 to 12 hours and keep everyone's attention, I just don't have that catalog. Yeah. It's hard for me to find music that I connect to that deeply to last that long. But yeah, probably at about 4 hours, I start to kind of like, all right, we're running out of ideas. But
something that we were again chatting about just before we turned the cameras on was this notion of just kind of not giving up as well, because to get to the level of production skill that you're at, that takes time. And I find that a lot of people just give up too soon. Otherwise they would succeed as you are now, and you've succeeded in your business beforehand, and now you've done the same in music. So there has to be some kind of resilience to help you push past the difficult times, because you must have been frustrated and think, this track's not working, or how do I do this thing, or how do I process this to make it sound good? What keeps you pushing through those barriers?
There's something to this experience, even going back to like how I connected to this world, where I don't know if you've ever read the book The Alchemist.
Yeah.
Where it talks about like when you're on your path, it's like the whole world conspires to help you. That's what it felt like. It was like, we're going to give you this win now, and then you're going to actually have to go through the hard work of learning how to create and build and produce something that's meaningful, that resonates, and I think having that deeper purpose to it, and it being such part of my own personal evolution, which is music has been so humbling for me, in that, yeah, it's like I can sit in a room and sometimes like you're working on something for 2 hours, and then you like open up the project the next day and you're like, what the heck? Like I'm like, I'm gonna have to, and you get done, you're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever made. And you open up the next day and you're like, I would never play this, or there's nothing I can do with this. I just got to delete the project and start over. And so I think at the core of it, I love it. I just love producing music. I love making art. I love that puzzle to be solved. I mean, there's tracks that I'll sit with for a year that are still like, okay, there's just something missing here that would take this over the edge to get it. Because I think, like for me, there's kind of 3 checkpoints for music. It's like if it makes you move, if it makes me feel something, and if it makes me think. If it does those 3 things, to me, it's like that song's ready to go out. So finding ways to pull off all 3 of those in a track itself, which can be challenging, especially like getting it to move and groove, I think is the easy part. Getting the feeling there, and then the thinking part of it tends to be a little bit more challenging for me, especially not being great at playing chords and coming into music much later. And so I've drawn out the MIDI, and and then you get too analytical inside your brain as you're trying to draw stuff and move it around and all. But yeah, I think at the core, because I love it, that's what keeps me going. And it feels part of some like mission, destiny, my own personal evolution is to do this versus just starting another business that makes money.
I can relate to that, especially with EDM tips as well now. Just having that love of doing it, but also that underlying drive or purpose that just helps push through the hard times, because then you're like, no, this is all good. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
It almost draws you forwards,
yeah.
Rather than pushing you. It's like drawing you forwards.
Yeah, like you were talking about this, even just the willingness to be like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do it until it's successful. And then I'm going to keep doing it, enjoy it being successful. And if it evolves into something else, great. I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, I think if you follow the steps that other people have followed, and maybe it takes just a lack of self-confidence, but for me, if someone has already done what I want to do, and this changed my life when I actually accepted that, and then I'm like, can you show me how to do it? And And they say, yes, you do this and this and this.
Yeah.
And you just keep doing that. And then if you do those things and you don't give up, then you will succeed. It's that simple. It's hard, it's not easy, but it's that simple.
Yeah. I've experienced it this way. I'm curious if you feel this about it. To me, it's almost a discovery and a decision. So the discovery is to discover what I feel called to do in life, but then just as important is like the decision to actually do it. And so it's like, I think there's seasons where I go into where it's like, man, I'm just exploring everything, sitting with stillness, traveling a lot, being around a lot of people that I feel like are doing something in life that lights them up, that I can be inspired by. And then from there, it's easy to get lost in that world of just like exploring. And then, but it's at a certain point, you know, even just with music, it was like, okay, I've made a decision. It's, you know, it's COVID time. There's nothing else to do other than to produce music. And so, you know, I'm going to join your course. There's like 4 or 5 other courses that I'm in, and like, you just go for it. Have you experienced that like decision and discovery process? Do you resonate with that?
Yeah, for sure. And I've spent most of my life kind of exploring. And it was only when I decided to do music production seriously that I actually made some actual headway with my career. You know, after a few days after making the decision to doing it, and also having the belief that I could do it, it was just like, hang on a second, you don't need to disbelieve that you can do it, because there are other people that aren't any smarter than you. They've just done stuff differently or more of it than you. When I made that decision, I won my first remix competition, and I got my first manager from that. Amazing. I got my first paid remix work. Then I started working with bigger singers, and it all stemmed from the 48 hours between making the decision and then submitting that track.
Wow.
I mean, obviously I've been producing for a while up to that point, so I had the background foundational skills.
Yeah.
But when I was like, this is happening, then it happened.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I feel like seeing it as a continual evolution of just growing as opposed to arriving. It's funny, even as you were making the comment of like, yeah, you being successful in this business, like, I don't even know if I would attribute myself there, but it's important to like honor the success that you have and the experiences that you had, and the albums that have come out and the releases that have gone out and the shows that you get to play, and also have a north that this is where the project's headed from a intent perspective.
To just interject there, and going back to the self-help stuff, so Tony Robbins, absolutely love him. There was a definition of success by one of the grandfathers of this self-help stuff, who was Earl Nightingale. You know, I've got tapes of his that were recorded in the 40s or the 50s, so they're really old and gravelly sounding. Yeah. He said the best definition of success is the continual realization of a worthy goal or ideal.
Yeah.
So not actually arriving at a destination, but the continual working towards a worthy goal. So you're releasing albums, you're producing regularly, you are a success, you know. Yeah. In fact, when you were to reach that one thing and stop, yeah, it's nice to celebrate and say, okay, I've just achieved this thing like a release. But the moment you stop, you're actually technically not succeeding anymore because you stopped.
Yeah.
For me, that just resonated with me, because it takes away that kind of mad pressure that people have. There's some destination in the future that they simply have to achieve.
Yeah. When you said it, I try to take note of these things, like, because I mean, for the longest time I didn't produce music just because I believed I wasn't a music producer, and I kept telling myself that story forever. Yeah. And so anytime, even you saying like, hey, you're being a successful artist, and then seeing that, I'm like, am I successful? And I'm like doubting that. I'm like, oh, that's helpful for me to be conscious of, because I think you're right. Like, to be able to have the ability to make art, put it out, and even if it's resonating with a few people, that to me is profound and meaningful. And I think even this last album that I did, which was really the last 2 years of my life, trying to put it into a sonic frequency so I could make more sense out of it. I think even if I just listened to that album and no one ever heard it, it would have been a success, because of how much joy and how much, like, it's like an audio yearbook of 2 years of my life put into a story format of 8 tracks that like can take me to different moments, and being able to share that and being like, this is what this felt like, this is what this was where I was at, at this time period. is really cool.
And I think that sensation or that self-doubt never goes away. I've spoken to producers who have been doing it for decades, who are in, the top DJ lists, top 100 DJ list, and they've told me that they still feel like imposters. I feel like it often, even with EDM tips. But the difference is, I think everyone feels like that, but some people just stop when they feel like that.
Yeah.
Whereas successful people feel that and then they just keep going anyway.
Right.
And that's it. There is no not feeling that.
Yeah, that's courage, right?
Yeah.
Feel the fear, do it anyways.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Is, yeah, actually, from this Tony Robbins event, it says courage. This was literally like the day I decided to make dance music.
Yeah, I love
Somebody made me this. It very much resonated that there was going to be a lot of fears and like limiting beliefs that I had, that I just had to make a decision to do it anyways, regardless of how I felt. So.
Yeah, I mean, those fears are there either way, but one route, you're not doing anything. And then
totally.
You'll end up regretting that more than if you just do the thing. You still got the fear either way. It's just
totally.
That way you get stuff done. So I'd love to talk to you about a couple of production in the weed stuff as well.
Sure.
Because as I said, I love your production. So are there any things that have really made a big difference, like any particular technical production tips that you found have made a big difference?
I think I used to overproduce, which is, I think, common, for a lot of artists getting started out, and being able to sit with something and be brutal about what should be there and what shouldn't be there. I think early on, I would get, there's a certain synth sound that I spent 6 hours on that doesn't need to stay there, that's ruining the track and the groove or whatnot. I don't think I was being honest. So it's literally just less is so much more. And I think noticing what sound-wise, because space is the whole deal. Even just you throw a bunch of top loops on something, and sure, it's going to make people kind of insanely groove, but is it working? And then how's that affecting everything? So I think being really conscious about on a sound level, which I think most of mixing is just sound choice, or at least in my experience with it.
I agree with that 100%.
And there's a guy I've become friends with, Ben Remember, from releases on Tool Room. Remember him, having a conversation with him about how important it is to find a sound that you don't have to do a ton of EQ, saturation, compression. If you're throwing all that onto the sound immediately out of the gate, he's like, mate, it's probably the wrong sound. I was like, that's so true. It's I would find this kick, and then you're sitting here trying to move. It's it's probably just the wrong kick. Just grab a different one. So when I'm at my best is not trying to. I can find myself getting overly technical in the ways that I think we were even just talking about ways of side chaining certain frequencies and all that stuff. I think getting the paint down on the canvas first and getting as much of it there, and then leaving space for a couple weeks, sometimes even a month, for me to then come back to it, hear it with fresh ears, and be like, that doesn't need to be here. That doesn't need to be here. Okay, I'm going to work with this. I'm going to move this around. And really beginning with what's the soul of the song? Yeah. And then everything else is built around that. I think the other piece of this is I would tend to start with grooves, and I would recognize how much that would box me in, right? Because then it's I'm trying to get a melody to fit a groove, versus it's so much easier for me to just create a groove because of not being able to play super well. You're drawing stuff in and then kind of moving cutoffs and all that stuff around just to make the interest. I'm trying to think of anything that would be overly unique on the, as far as overly unique on the technical production side.
I mean, this doesn't have to be unique. It could just be something that when you've discovered it, we mentioned that sidechain technique of just sidechaining the low end under 100 and 120 hertz.
Oh yeah, through Shaper Box is a game changer. If you want the kick to punch through, but not feel this this overly sidechain thing of, being able to kind of take out from 0 to 120 hertz on the bass, and even on the synths as well too, and almost kind of within each bus itself. So that punch of the kick is actually coming through while you're still getting the most of the sonics of everything else anyways. Yeah. Is I mean, that's done wonders. And I think being hypercritical of EQing stuff, that just doesn't need to be there. Yeah. I'm pretty basic on the front end. I'll just throw the God particle on the master and get the paint on the canvas, and then come back in. And I think too, even just finding guys to master my stuff and even at times mix my stuff has got me, I can actually mix other people's songs better than I can mix my own.
Yeah.
Because there's almost too much bias
Yeah.
to time spent on certain sounds or hearing it a certain way.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody else can send me a track and I can mix it quickly for the label or something, and it's like, well, you know, and then they're like, oh, that sounds incredible. Like, what'd you do? It's like, well, I don't know, you just need a different kick in there. It's like, how'd you get? It's like, well, yeah, But I think when I hear something too much, especially if you're getting in that loop, like getting out of that loop quickly is important.
Yeah.
Because if not, it'll just lock it in that idea.
And then you've got that objectivity. If it's not your track, it's like it comes in, you hear it, and immediately you can go, okay, that's not working, that's not working.
Yeah.
Whereas, everyone has that when you listen to your own track so many times, and then you can lose that kind of perspective.
Yeah.
But as you said, you give yourself sometimes a few weeks, sometimes even a year, so you can come back with fresh ears, and I guess that's going to really help you apply that same objectivity to your own music. Yeah.
I think most things I do, I just take for granted. So it's like even the idea of like sharing it in a production format, but I didn't realize how afraid I was of like oversaturating things because it was like wrong in some way. And I think the more I've just thrown that out the window and just oversaturated everything to be as brutal as possible, I think I've found way more interesting sounds than, because if not, it just sounds like another Diva preset or another Serum preset. So I think not being afraid, I think listening to rock and roll music and seeing how they just like threw all that out the window and they're like, we're gonna throw an amp on this thing and we're gonna like run this through a pedal that's gonna make this sound brutal. And that created an entire genre that people fell in love with because it was dissonant. I think there was unwritten rules that I put on myself because of like thinking this was the technical way to do it.
Yeah.
I think throwing that stuff aside and just being obnoxious with it. Like I'll sometimes go into the studio and being like, I want to make the weirdest thing I could possibly make today that no one is ever going to listen to. And sometimes from that mindset, especially the fact that it's not going to go out as a HAUM song, and I'm thinking like, what would a HAUM song sound like? End up making things that I connect to way more and sound way more interesting than like, okay, here's going to be this progressive house track that's going to be done in this style and whatnot.
So the experimentation plays a big role in that.
Yeah, going in with a different mindset or. Yeah.
I love that. So it sounds like a lot of the driving force behind your success thus far and continued success is mindset. That's what you've spoken about, intention and mindset. And then we talk about not giving up and there being fear and doing it anyway. All of that really comes from mindset. And I've seen that as well, with our most successful students. It's really, the mindset is the biggest difference. It's not some one technical thing. It's just these mental tools, if you will, that you can approach things with. But I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to touch upon, or perhaps you can share where people can hear more HAUM's music and all about your label as well?
Yeah. All streaming platforms, website, Instagram, all that stuff. I've tried to be more intentional about posting stuff on Instagram, although it's like, I almost feel my body just like shut down. All the creativity like leaves me as soon as I try to become a personality or whatever. But
yeah, I'm the same.
There's a new album that I'm working on that I really like. I've got a good friend, Ransom, he's starting a new EDM project, goes by this name Architect. Crazy talented. In fact, even a lot of the sounds that I'm working through are really from analog that we've just routed through MIDI back into some of these like older analog synths, like the Prophet 10, Juno, the Moog 1, all that stuff. He's helped me fall in love with the analog and getting out of the box of just the pointing and clicking side of things. And then the record label Quantum Feels, really at the heart now is just finding artists that I resonate to on a mindset standpoint and who are, wanting to make music within a certain frequency and a certain intention. Those are the artists we want to sign and support. And at the heart of is really helping their careers in whatever fashion, whether that's through connections, whether that's through production camps that I'm hosting at my house, with a bunch of songwriters and producers, or whether that's like shows, Nashville, we've got a residency in Tulum and some other spots. Yeah, I love going and playing at.
Cool. So. Well, I'll put links to all of the different things underneath the video as well so people can check it all out. And thank you very much for
thank you for having me. Yeah, this has
pleasure,
been
man.
this has been awesome. Yeah, it's been cool to be able to follow what you're doing. I think you're showing people an easier way. It's like it looks so easy in the way that you do it. And so I think that does wonders even for somebody like me that was brand new in this world. It's like, I don't know the first thing about how to create a dance track, from several years ago. To be able to watch somebody like you just be able to deconstruct something and break it into like, oh, that's where that sound comes from. Oh, that's where that is. You're giving artists that way of jumping into this world, and I think, which is super, super meaningful, man.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
We're moving the DJs from just DJs into becoming artists, man. You're doing the Lord's work.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. HAUMS, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
And we'll chat soon.
Same, Will. Thanks, bud.
No worries.
Cheers.
So a massive thanks to HAUMS for taking the time to do this interview. If you've got any questions for him or me, drop them in the comments below and let us know if you enjoyed this conversation, what about it in particular you found useful. Now, as I said, HAUMS is actually one of our Accelerator alumni, so if you want to get the coaching to get your music released on labels such as All Day I Dream and Colorize, like many of our other Accelerator students, click the link below and you can find out all the details. Speaking of alumni that make beautiful progressive house, I caught up with Mully as well, who is one of Colorize Music's flagship artists. You can check out that interview there, loads of great insights, but if you enjoyed this one, give it a like first, and do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps me out. Thank you, and I'll catch you over at that next video.